All right, here are the first notes for solving two-step equations. We're going to start by reviewing one-step equations. So again, whenever you're asked to solve an equation, your job is to figure out what number you would replace with x, okay, or whatever variable you have. So ask yourself what's happening to the variable and how do I undo it? So with x, 7 is being added to it. So to undo adding 7, to get the 7 to go away, we subtract 7. That will get that to cancel out to 0. Whatever you do to one side, you also have to do to the other. I know some of you like to draw your lines that way. Since we're going to get into two-step equations, it's going to be really important that you show what you're doing and draw a line after each step so it doesn't get all jumbled. All right, so on the left-hand side, all we have is x equals -10 minus 7 would give us -17. Now, I know most of you probably don't have a calculator at home, so just use your phone to check your answer. So you should have a little plus minus sign down here. So you can do -10 parenthesis minus 7, or sorry, -17. I should do my answer. -17 plus 7. And we get -10, which is the answer. All right, so you can still check your work even if you don't have your own calculator at home. You can go ahead and use your phone. All right, this one here, what's happening is subtracting 8. So to undo subtract 8, we need to add 8. Remember, that needs to go away. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So m equals -12 plus 8 is -4. So again, if you want to check your work, you're going to do -4 parenthesis, that's what we got for m, minus 8. Make sure it equals -12, and it does. This one, you have to remember there's no sign here. So here's an addition sign, here's a subtraction sign. This one is a fraction bar, which is also division. When there's no sign and they're right next to each other, this is called a coefficient, and the variable, they're being multiplied. So to undo multiplication, we need to divide. Divide by -3. You want the negative to go along with it to cancel it out. So that cancels out, divided by -3. R equals -24 divided, or sorry, 24 divided by -3 is -8. Just be really careful with all your positives and negatives. All right, and again, if you want to check, we're going to do -3 times -8. That's what we got for our answer. Make sure it equals +24, and it does. Okay, again, usually fractions kind of scare us, but remember this just means n divided by 5. So to undo divide by 5, we times by 5 times by 5. N equals -15. Sorry, that's kind of blurry. Okay, so to check that one, we need to do -15 divided by 5 and make sure we get -3, and we do. Okay, so for our first set of two-step notes, these are going to be the steps that you follow every time, okay? Now our next set of notes, we're going to see an exception to this rule, but almost every single problem will look like this, okay? All of the ones for these notes and the worksheet that goes with it, you will undo addition or subtraction first, then undo multiplication or division. All right, so if you look at number 1, what's happening to x is it's being multiplied by 3, and then 5 is being added. So we have to undo the order of operations in reverse. Okay, so first we have to get rid of the +5. So again, normally we would multiply first and then add when you follow the order of operations, but to solve an equation, you have to do that in reverse order to undo it. So first we need to subtract 5 to get rid of the 5. So that gets rid of the 5. I'm left with 3x equals -7 minus 5 is -12. Again, it's going to be really important that you show your work, keep it in a nice, neat line so you can go back and see what's happening. This is 3 times x, so divide by 3, divide by 3, x equals -4. is what we would get for our answer. So again, to check, we're going to do 3 times negative 4, is what we got for x, plus 5, and it does equal negative 7 like it's supposed to. So every time you do a problem, you should always go back and check your work. This is one that tricks a lot of people because we see this minus sign. All right, so we think we need to add 8. Don't write this down, but if you put plus 8, 8 plus 8 is 16. We don't want 16, we want that 8 to go away. So you have to think of this as a positive 8. If you really wanted to, you could change it to negative 4n plus 8 equals 28 and solve it that way. So you can always rearrange things. You just have to make sure in this problem, the 4n has to have the negative with it, and the 8 is a positive, so it would have to be a plus. So if you want to rearrange it, you can. You just have to pay attention to what's positive and what's negative. But this is a positive 8, so to get rid of positive 8, we need to subtract 8 to make it cancel out to 0. Subtract 8. What's left over here then is negative 4n. That minus sign becomes a negative sign with the 4n. Equals 20. 28 minus 8 is 20. So this is multiplication. To undo multiplication, we divide, n equals negative 5. Put boxes around my answer. So when you check this one, 8 minus 4 times negative 5 is 28, which is what it should have been. Number 3, we have to get rid of this minus 3 first. So something I normally ask is what do you need to get rid of? You need to get rid of a 2 and a 3. You need to get rid of the 3 first. Since it's minus 3, we need to add 3 to both sides. So m over 2, m divided by 2, equals negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. Again, make sure you're careful with your negatives. Just use your calculator if you need to check your work. Divided by 2, so to undo that, we times by 2, m equals negative 8 is what we think our answer should be. So when we check that, negative 8 divided by 2 minus 3 gives us negative 7, which it should. Okay, this one looks almost the same as what we just did. Okay, there's a fraction, and then this is a plus instead of a minus. But we still have to get rid of this 5 first. So to get rid of plus 5, we have to minus 5 from both sides. We have negative x over 3 equals 7 minus 5 is 2. Now, we did a few of these before this break. So the problem is, do we multiply by 3? Do we multiply by negative? You want to get rid of all of it at the same time. Then it's only one step. So you are going to multiply by negative 3. Okay, so even though the minus sign, the negative sign is in the middle, you can think of it as going with the 3. So we're going to multiply by negative 3. So anytime there's a negative left out in front, you have to get rid of it. So those will cancel out. X equals 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Okay, so anytime you have a negative in front of a fraction, you want to multiply by the negative, whatever the denominator is. All right, so when you plug it in, it gets a little bit tricky. Negative 6. Notice how it just went away. If you take a negative times a negative, you get a positive. So your calculator, your phone will know. If you have an actual calculator, it will just have a double negative. And it might not let you do that, so you just need to know it will change it to a positive. Okay, divided by 3 plus 5 does give us 7. This is one that looks pretty simple, but is actually one of the trickier ones. All right, so there's nothing in front of the n right now, but we still need to get rid of this 6. Again, this minus sign goes with the n, not with the 6. This is a positive 6, so we have to subtract 6 to make it go away. If we would have added 6, we would have gotten 12. We don't want 12, we want 0. So subtract 6 from both sides. You need to write the negative sign in front of the n. Equals -3. Now the correct way to say this is the opposite of n is equal to -3. We don't want to know what the opposite is, we want to know what just n is. So if the opposite is -3, that means n is just +3. So you do the opposite. If it's negative, it turns positive. If this would have been positive, this would have turned negative. The other way to think about it is that means times -1. So divide by -1, divide by -1, and you get +3. Now, this is one that you probably don't really need to do actual work for. You should just know that 6 minus 3 is going to give you 3. All right, so if you can figure that out without having to write the steps out, that is completely fine. Just realize they'll get a little bit trickier the more we go on. This very last one is really tricky because it's backwards, what I would say. So I'm going to show you two ways. I'm going to show you how to do it as is, and then I'm going to show you how to rewrite it. So we have a 5 and a 3 that we have to get rid of. We have to get rid of the 5 first. It's a +5, so we need to subtract 5 from both sides. 8 minus 5 is 3 equals, that's canceled, we have -3m. Don't forget, anytime there's a minus sign, it needs to go along. This is multiplication, so divide by -3, divided by -3. -1 equals m, or if you want to flip it around, m equals -1. So this is an acceptable answer. It just looks weird. So if you want to flip it around, you can write it like that. If you choose to rewrite this problem, just make sure it's 5 minus 3m equals 8. You don't make it 3m minus 5. Okay, so just move this stuff over here and this over here. Make sure this stays in the same order. So again, subtract 5, -3m equals 3, divide, m equals -1. So again, if you want to check your answer, 5 minus 3 times -1 gives us +8.